What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hardwood Convos podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. I'm Brock Bierman, alongside, as always, Hunter Rose and Dawson Livingston, here to talk some NBA hoops here for the next 45 minutes and maybe a little bit over an hour. But we're not really talking about anything going on the court, really, this week. The trade deadline is officially passed as we're recording here. We're recording here on actually the day of the trade deadline, February 5th. But we will probably have this posted Friday, the next day, or maybe even Saturday, depending on if I get time to edit this tonight. But as always, we start with checking in on the crew. Dawson, Hunter, how are we doing? Are we feeling good? I know, Hunter, let's stay away from reactions to what we're probably going to end up talking about involving your basketball team. But outside of those things going on, how are you guys doing?
We're going along. It's 2020. Cavs just acquired James Harden, who just averaged 37 point. Oh nope, it's 2026. He's 36 years old, and the Cavs gave up a 26-year-old for him. But we'll see. We'll get into that. My full thoughts on the trade. But I'm doing okay.
Pretty much the same. I'm like doing pretty good. Yeah. Well, I'll get to my rant later. That makes me feel really good, and then I'll feel way better afterwards. But you know, we're living life right now. So I also learned that the Packers are gonna probably keep their special teams coach, which does not help my mood. But whatever, it's fine.
As a Clone fan, I feel what I feel your pain, and when it
number one special teams this next year. Go roll Clones.
Yeah, I mean, they hired what 3 or 4 special teams coaches.
Come on.
Definitely wasn't done intentionally as a jab at anyone. No, by no means. That was just coincidence.
Yep.
That we went for years without a special teams coordinator, and then all of a sudden they just hired 3 with the new coaching regime. But yeah, I mean, obviously the big news coming out of the NBA trade deadline, I mean, right around this time last week, it was all but official that Giannis requested a trade, according to Shams and a bunch of other reporters. It was going to be a done deal at some point before the deadline. The Bucks were going to move on from him. The era of Giannis and the Bucks officially coming to an end, would end with one championship run, and Giannis would be playing for a different team, and the Bucks would be completely tearing down everything and rebuilding. At least that's what we were told last week around this time. And the NBA trade deadline has officially passed, and Giannis is still in Milwaukee. And if anything, it sounds like he has no intentions yet again on ever leaving Milwaukee and forever being a Buck, assuming that things turn around here in the next month or even couple seasons for sure in Milwaukee. We'll start with Hunter because I feel like this is a hot button topic for him for sure. How are you feeling? Obviously, your guy is staying in Milwaukee, but how have you been feeling over the past week? Because I couldn't imagine being a Bucks fan and hearing that, oh, this guy's gone. This team's thinking about getting him. This team's thinking about getting him. This team won't include these 3 players, but still wants to trade for him. Just all these rumors presented to NBA fans as pretty much fact, according to some of these reporters and analysts on whatever station or channel that you consume NBA media in, just to find out that he wasn't going anywhere. It doesn't sound like he was really going anywhere in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like this isn't so this year is definitely like the peak of it, right? With one, like Giannis towards the end of his contract, the Bucks underperforming, a lot of weird roster moves and stuff. But this has actually been going on for like 7 years now. So this last happened all the way back in 2019, before Giannis would have signed his extension in 2020, right before they would have won the title. The title is the only break the Bucks have had from supposed Giannis rumors, and even then, I'm sure somebody wrote an article somewhere. One of the other funny things that I think about this whole thing, and I was trying to think of a better and nicer word of saying this, but I really couldn't think of any. So sorry if for somehow, some way, somebody this affects is watching this. The whole thing is so scummy by these media guys. Because if you go back to Shams' tweet even about the Giannis trade, he never even explicitly said he's asking for a trade. A week prior, Jonathan Kuminga demanded a trade. This is all semantics, but I'll get to my point in a second. He demanded a trade, which means he went into the front office and he said, I want a trade. The words used to describe the Giannis situation were Giannis is open to having a new home. Not even open to having a new team. Open to having a new home. And that was that. That was that. And then it was just nothing but speculation and empty words and empty threats. And if there's one thing I hope we all learn from the situation is that I'm gonna parade around and say, yep, we've been saying it. He's not leaving. He may have not explicitly said, I am for sure 100% staying. But the words that did come out of his mouth were, I love Milwaukee. I was married in Milwaukee. I buried part of my family in Milwaukee. All these things. He's lived most of his life at this point in Milwaukee. Well, almost most of his life. All of his professional life and adult life in Milwaukee. He said it over and over and over and over and over again. I want to retire a Milwaukee Buck. Yet here I have to listen to these frauds on a 4-letter channel out there go, man, I'm really sick and tired of talking about the Bucks. Brother, nobody's asking you. Nobody's asking you for it. Nobody wants to hear you talk about the Bucks. You don't know what you're talking about. That's the clearest thing about this whole thing is you don't know what you're talking about. And they admitted it. They admit it. And so even if this offseason Giannis decides to leave, which I don't honestly, I really, like Brock said, I honestly don't even think that happens. But even if it happens, if Jimmy Haslam decides to walk in to Milwaukee and just ruin everyone's life, like some other GM, well, a GM did. He's not the GM, he's the owner, but some other GM did in Dallas. Give zero credit to Shams, all right? We don't listen to the tale of a boy who cried wolf and go, wow, what a brave young man. No, we don't do that. We say, wow, look at this absolute idiot doing the wrong thing over and over again, finally being right, and he doesn't get his flowers because everybody died in the story. But, here it doesn't end that way, obviously. But he should not get his flowers. If Giannis ever leaves Milwaukee, should not get his flowers. You don't have a weatherman go, yeah, it could rain today or tomorrow. It could actually rain next year. It could rain 2 years from now at some point. It might just rain, but it could be sunny if the weather decides to do so. That weatherman would be fired. He wouldn't even get through the rest of the segment before being like, you're out of here. Meanwhile, this guy's going to get paid millions of dollars to continue to do that for this upcoming offseason. So I hope all of us out there understand that this needs to change. For the love of God, please. That was my rant condensed down as much as possible.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bravo. I've been waiting 4 days. I've been looking forward to this recording. I'm like, oh, trade deadline is always going to be super fun. And then when nothing went down with Milwaukee, I'm like, oh my God, the first 10 minutes of this episode is going to be so funny. And Hunter, you nailed it. That was a perfect way to put it.
Yeah. I completely agree on everything, Hunter, you said. Maybe I'm misremembering. I don't remember Woj in the past being this
Not really.
freely with his posts. I feel like the only time he really posted anything is when something is already done and that's what it's a done deal, or it is all but signed, as in they are going to sign this or they're going to agree to this. It's just not official yet. The ink is still wet kind of thing. It's not dried.
Yeah, it was either breaking news, this is happening, or breaking news, this conversation is happening. It was never breaking news. Here's this rumor that might be true.
Or it might not be.
That's not breaking.
Next year it could be an issue.
Newsflash out there to anybody. breaking news does not mean this could happen. Breaking news is this is happening at this moment. Breaking news, there is a tornado.
There could be a tornado.
Breaking news, there is an accident on I-80. Not, there might be. Be careful out there. They don't do that. All right, they don't do that.
Oh Lord. well said, Hunter. Dawson, what are your thoughts on this? Because I mean, it seemed like if Giannis was going to get traded, and this is getting a perspective for someone that has to cheer for a team in the Eastern Conference as well. But it seems like if he was going to get traded, it was going to move him out of the Eastern Conference, at least from the teams that I heard of over the rumors that were getting spread this past week. Now that it's official that Giannis isn't leaving as of right now, what are your thoughts as a Cavs fan and just overall with everything that you saw from a fan of a different team, kind of a conference rival as well with the Bucks?
Yeah, it just like Hunter said, it never really made sense from the jump. Like, yeah, Milwaukee's like struggling right now as a team, but Giannis has never given a clear indication. It's like, hey, trade me or else I'm like sitting out or I'm going to do something drastic. Like he never gave that indication to Milwaukee. It is kind of wild that that's all that the NBA beat writers have been pulling for the last year. Maybe it's because they're just trying to drag Giannis towards a bigger market or not. So it's easier to talk about. But it never really made sense to me when like hearing those rumors. With that being said, when everything was going down about 2 nights ago after the Cavs made a certain move, there was a thought in my mind. I'm like, you know what, blow up the whole team. Let's trade a certain power forward and all the draft picks we have left for Giannis. But thank God we don't act in rash decisions because it sounded like Milwaukee was never going to make that move to start with. So, but I'm happy that Giannis is still in Milwaukee. Who knows? The record right now isn't fantastic, but I will say they could get a decently high draft pick. And with how good this draft is, with Darren Peterson, with Cam Boozer, with AJ DeMonsa, like this is an unreal draft class.
Josh Jefferson.
All right. I'll throw Bennett Sturts in there too.
Mom Chilovich. Heck, you get Taman in the second round easily.
All right. Nah, that's where I run out of players. But the top 4 of this draft, I think it's Caleb Wilson's the other guy from North Carolina. Those top 4 players, if you get any one of those guys, can be difference makers next year. And maybe Milwaukee goes in the offseason and starts to be aggressive and maybe uses that pick to acquire another star. But I never really fully understood these trade requests that were made by Giannis and the Bucks. And the post he made on social media immediately after the deadline, I think gives you all the proof you need.
Yeah.
If you really think Giannis was requesting a trade. So,
and the crazy thing is I do think some of these teams did make certain trades with the idea that it would clear up space so then they could go and get Giannis. Example.
I mean, he did do it. But.
Yeah. Example, though, for me was Minnesota trading Mike Conley or that 3-team trade with Mike Conley, who then ended up getting traded to Charlotte. But was that the one with Jaden Ivey as well? That ended up getting Jaden moved to Chicago. But like Minnesota literally didn't receive anything in that trade. They just gave up Mike Conley. Like they're like, here, take him. And I was like,
the game.
I was like, good Lord. Like that was the move, which is funny talking about Mike Conley. I don't know what his contract situation was or anything with that. And the fact that Chicago moved on from him pretty quickly as well makes me think that, again, nobody wants his contract. Maybe he's going to get bought out. Who knows? But I was like, that's a weird situation that makes me wonder if someone is actually making a move to potentially try to go and grab Giannis. But obviously nothing ever happened. And you're talking about the draft. I know I'm kidding. I was kidding about Momcilovic, but I really think about it. Momcilovic is the bona fide better version of what Chris Middleton was supposed to be in the long run for the Bucks in terms of just catch and shoot in the 3 and being able to stretch the floor a little bit as a perimeter 3, potentially Dirk-esque player. If I'm Milwaukee and he's and he goes pro for whatever reason, and he's from Wisconsin as well, I'm going all in on trying to find a way to get him on Giannis's team, because then you'd have AJ Green and Momcilovic, arguably two of and not just the NBA, just in basketball right now, two of the better 3-point shooters in the sport. Like that's really good for a team that has a player that, yes, Giannis has expanded his game and can shoot from the 15 feet, and you have to at least keep him honest from 3-point range now. It's perfect for them. But yeah, I'm part of me kind of hopes that the Bucks are able to do something this offseason that completely shuts up everybody, because I feel like the media is wanting Milwaukee to move on from Giannis because it gives them that spicy like thing that they can talk about on all their shows and everything. And I love that Giannis is like, nah. Every time this comes up, it ends up with him saying, nah, I want to be here in Milwaukee. It would be great if they ever win a championship again, because it would silence all the haters and all the media people in the long run. But yeah, Hunter or Dawson, any final comments on this situation? I guess it's not even, we're almost 20 minutes into this episode and we haven't even talked about an actual trade that has went down. We've talked about the trade that was supposed to happen.
No, it is funny looking back at all the teams that, like you said, made moves to potentially free up space and potentially go after Giannis, for it to all mean like absolutely nothing. Like you talk about the Timberwolves just like giving up Mike Conley, just for and gave up a first round pick. I don't know if it's an actual unprotected pick or if it's a swap, but just just because like, hey, we'll try to get Giannis. We'll see if this works out. Just for them to end up getting nothing in return, and in fact losing their starting point guard.
Yeah, makes you think whether or not someone was like putting out feelers to get Shams to report that Giannis wants out, so then teams would like freak out and start trading all their assets, when Giannis knew the whole time that he just wanted teams to like mess up their core. Which, if that's what the Bucks and Giannis did, that's some devious stuff. And you know what? Respect. But yeah, let's get into some of the bigger moves, or just some of the trades that have happened here over the past couple days leading up to the trade deadline. Before we get into the one that probably Dawson wants to talk about, this one did occur the same day, but it was for my team. The Bulls moved on from Nikola Vucevic, who isn't averaging terrible numbers considering that he's a 35-year-old center. But they move on from him, send him over to Boston. And the thing that shocked me, though, that I'm on the fence on how I feel about it, is they do send Anthony Simons, who is a good like off the bench player for a championship caliber team. They send him over, and then they both send each other a second round pick. First, for me, before I get your guys' opinions on this is a very interesting move for Boston, because they I'm not sold on whether or not Tatum is going to come back or not this year. I think last week they said that Tatum's actually like reconsidering even the thought of coming back at all. And then they make this move, which it fills up a big need at the center position for them, for sure. They've been in search for not a Porzingis replacement, but just like someone to be dominant in the 5 position for them this entire season. But making this move this season with someone that old makes me really think that maybe they are actually going to give Jason Tatum the chance to come back this year, and they're going to just say, screw it. Let's try to compete this season. Obviously, there are a lot better teams in the NBA right now that they would have to go through to even consider competing for an NBA championship. But I don't know. This move makes me think that they really were like, no, we're going to try this year. But I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on this.
I can start this one and I'll let Hunter, because I'm sure he's got more in-depth thoughts. On the outs, like the far few, It's an expiring deal for an expiring deal and swapping second round picks.
Yep.
Like that's the basis of this deal. Simons is a good player, was averaging good numbers this year. Didn't start a game for the Bulls, but he was known as that like off the bench spark where it's like, hey, I'm going to get 15 to 16 points and really command that second unit. For Vucevic, this is a guy that has been in trade rumors. It feels like the last 4 years, and the Bulls finally moved on from him as he's in the last year of his current contract. You have the numbers on this previous graphic, but Vooch is having a pretty good season, like you said, for a 35-year-old, almost 17 points a game, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. This just gives you more insurance at that center position for Keita, who's kind of inexperienced when it comes to like playing in a deep playoff run. And as much as I love Luka Garza and all the PPR numbers of Luka Garza,
God, he's so strong.
It just gives you more insurance at that center position, and another experienced guy who's maybe not been on the deepest playoff runs because he's only been with the Magic and the Bulls, and I think the Bulls have only made the playoffs once.
He has not been on even a playoff run in general. To be on a run, you have to win a series. I don't know if he's ever done that.
I'd have to look that. Now that you say that, I don't think he has. But all that to say, if you're the Celtics, it's a why not trade. I mean, you're not really giving up too much in Simons. And like you said, if Tatum does come back, then you have an interesting starting lineup of Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, and Porzingis, and Vucevic. The number 8 is throwing me off because that's Porzingis' old number.
I bet
then you have Hauser.
They probably photoshopped that off of.
Yeah, honestly, probably just swapped Vucevic's head for
the jersey.
Porzingis.
Looks a little big on him. I'm pretty sure that's a Porzingis jersey if I've ever seen one.
But yeah, I wouldn't say it's a win-win move because for Chicago, again, we'll get to them later on. They acquired their like 12th different guard. It feels like this trade deadline, and now they don't have any centers. But for Boston, for a team that's third in the East right now, with how bad the Eastern Conference is, even with Tatum missing, like let's say he misses 70 games this year and only gets to play the last few to tune up for the playoffs, they're still probably the second favorite to win the East right now, only probably behind Detroit, maybe New York. So if you're Boston, why not take a swing while you have a really good record. But for Chicago, it's kind of questioning. But I guess it's an expiring deal if you look at it that way. So
yeah, and like the crazy thing about it is there's so many different lineups now that the Celtics can do now that Vucevic is on their roster. Assuming Tatum is going to give it a crack and like attempt to play this season, because you mentioned Derek White. Derek White could end up coming off the bench again, or Peyton Pritchard could end up coming off the bench again, which, I mean, it's not a bad thing whatsoever having one of those guys come off the bench, which replaces the Anthony Simons movement to Chicago. But Hunter, what are your thoughts on this? Does it really move the needle for you on either team?
Yeah, I honestly agree wholeheartedly with what Dawson was saying, especially for Boston. Like, I think if I remember right, they cut Boucher and they cut Tillman. So that left them then with Garza and
Thank you, Tillman, for your service.
Sure. That left them with Garza and then Keita, and so just in general, like the big question has been like their center position, and now they have somebody at least for this year because they kind of just meandered themselves to the 3rd seed right now, and like I said, honestly, probably the 2nd best team in the East right now. Especially offensively, they've been electric this year, surprisingly enough, and even on the defensive end, at the beginning of the year was a lot of question marks, but have really cleaned things up, and now are top 10, I think, in points allowed per 100 possessions, which is pretty solid. Chicago. This honestly just felt like a why not kind of thing. Like Dawson said, even Vooch has just been on the trade block forever. I think Bulls fans just have wanted him gone. It's kind of a shock he lasted longer than Levine and DeRozan and literally everybody. Kobe White at this point, which is just wild. I feel like the next guy up for being sent out is probably going to be Baby Kawhi, Pat Williams. And so, their team is just wild. I don't get it. They have such a wide array of second round picks now. They've got a few firsts as well, but they got like 9 second round picks just from this whole trade fiasco stuff. So yeah, I'm sure like I said, we'll get to more of what they did here probably in a bit. But yeah, overall, I do like this quite a bit for Boston, and it'll be interesting to see what they do next year, especially as Tatum being hopefully fully healthy and being able to play for most of next season. Well, being healthy and playing next season fully, full strength, and see what they can do with that opening now at the center position. And it'll be interesting to see what they do.
One thing I want to add about Vucevic, the guy plays. He's played in 70 or more games every single season. And if you throw out the season that the league shut down due to COVID, he's played in 70 or more games every single year since the 2018 season. So the dude plays. Like, at worst, you're getting a guy that's averaging 17 points a game, 9 rebounds, can shoot the 3 ball, can space the floor. It's good. Like, that's at worst for Boston. At best, he's a former All-Star. Granted, he's probably not going to see that for the rest of his career. But what they do in the offseason, if they re-sign him on a cheaper deal, I really like the fit with Vucevic in Boston.
It's just they're doing the Al Horford thing all over again, really, with Vucevic. But well, I'm interested to see where this goes. I think if Tatum does play again, and if Tatum is even half of as good as he was when he was in his prime the last couple of years in those playoff runs, like it will be interesting to see with how wide open the Eastern Conference is. Sticking with the Eastern Conference and getting over to more of probably what Dawson wants to hit on. The Cleveland Cavaliers did, in fact, make a move. I don't know if it was the move that Dawson was wanting, though, as they made a trade. Let me see if I can find the right slide for James Harden. James Harden, the former league MVP, former just great player that, according to some people, never was able to get over the hump and win the championship as a player, and then all of a sudden ended up on like 20 teams in 2 months. Yeah, but James Harden gets traded over to Cleveland from LA, and we'll look over here. They send Darius Garland over to LA. Yay. I don't know if Dawson really wanted Darius Garland out of all players to be traded from Cleveland, but Garland goes to the Clippers. Harden goes to the Cavaliers. As a Cavaliers fan, Dawson, how are you feeling about this situation? I know you hinted at a certain player that you'd like gone, but he is still on your team. And you got to add former MVP James Harden.
Last Saturday, the Cavs got rid of DeAndre Hunter and brought in Schroeder and Ellis. And I'm like, okay, I really like that move. I'm like, Hunter wasn't really a great fit this year. There were some attitude issues. I'm like, good. Cavs are making an effort. I'm like, that's probably the only move that is going to happen. And then me, Brock, and Braden are recording the Between the Hashes Super Bowl preview on Monday night. And as we're wrapping up, my phone is blowing up about a potential James Harden to Cleveland. I'm like, oh, hold on. I gotta make sure that this is just absolute utter nonsense. Because you can't trust half the stuff that you find on Twitter or any social media platform, for that matter. And about 24 hours later, it was more than official. I'll be quite honest, not the biggest fan of James Harden. Never have. But hey, it makes the Cavs better now. Like I said with Vucevic, thing with Harden, he plays. He plays in a lot of games. Now, does he have a tendency?
If he's happy, he plays.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he's quit on his 4th different team now in the last 6 years.
And we've seen the fat suit.
Yeah, he quit on Houston, he quit on the Nets, he quit on the Sixers, and he just quit on the Clippers. So that is a later issue. But as much as it pains me to now have Harden on the team, it makes sense when you look at it from an outside view. Garland and Mitchell were never a great fit. Some of the numbers aren't fantastic. It's under 6'3" guards that can't really defend, that need the ball in order to be successful. And the thing with Harden provides a little bit more playmaking. And Harden, I guess, is a bigger guard. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", so he at least can play some sort of defense. And he plays in most of his games that he wants to, I should say.
When he's feeling it.
Yeah. But bottom line, the Cavs just traded a 26-year-old two-time All-Star for a 36-year-old
26?
That's making almost $50 million next year.
Oh, no.
So, and I am a degenerate, all right? I love being like out there on like certain bets I place. This is all chips in the middle of the table for the Cavs. They have this year, they have next year. That's it with this move. So hey, Cleveland, the clock starts now. If you don't win the title this year, next year, you can kiss Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, all that goodbye.
Yeah,
it's not going to matter.
You're gonna have to hope that players like Evan Mobley start performing for the Cavs, and maybe they can compete, get to the finals here. But it's gonna be rough, and it doesn't help that the Detroit Pistons right now are playing as well as they are, and some people may not understand what that means, but like JB Bickerstaff being where he's at right now and not in Cleveland, I know Dawson, it boils your blood,
grinds my gears,
it grinds your gears. Like I like, and everybody knows
ruffles my feathers, dude.
Like, and everybody at some point experiences that as a sports fan, seeing like a coach that didn't do well where one of your teams were, and then they go somewhere else and all of a sudden they're like performing really well. So everyone sympathizes with you because they know what it's like to experience that. But like, again, I still think the Cavs have the tools. I mean, they also did get rid of another guard in Lonzo Ball, and it sounds like he got traded to Utah, but he's also in the process, it sounds like, of getting bought out. So any team can sign with him but Cleveland. And
good.
That was a good move for sure, because I just feel like they felt like they had to play him, but playing him was like the worst option that they could have had.
Yeah, I will say, when they made that trade for Schroeder and Keon Ellis, when giving up DeAndre Hunter, Lonzo was always going to be the odd man out.
Yeah.
Because Schroeder, like, Lonzo is like good at playmaking. He's okay at defense, but that shooting, I think he's 460th in shooting percentage this year, or 300. Yep. He's like almost dead last in field goal percentage. And at least with Schroeder's going to chuck the ball up a bunch when he's off the bench. So that could be interesting. And I will say, being a Cavs fan the last 4 years, I've gotten bored of the core four of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, because it's like, they're never really going to move one of these guys in my eyes. I'm like, this is just the team we have. And the Cavs have had 3 straight playoff failures. They just have. Getting smoked by the Knicks in the first year of this core four. Beating the Magic barely, and then getting annihilated by Boston. And then should have beating Indiana last year, honestly, if it weren't for a couple game 1 or game 2 mistakes. And they fell on their face. So it would have been hard for the Cavs to trot out the core four again this season, just to have them fall on their face again. So I appreciate the effort. I now have to trust.
I don't know if he was the right guy to make the move, like out of the 4
That's
to
the
get
thing.
rid of. Because like I guess, Dawson, I think you've kind of hinted at that maybe Mobley was the guy to look at. I've never been a fan of Jared Allen personally. I've never been a fan, I guess, in Jared Allen in that roster. Maybe I'm lost, but Jared Allen doesn't really do anything for me. But you watch more Cavs games than I did.
I will say, and then I'll let Hunter, because I know I've kind of just yapped the last 10 minutes. I will say, the addition of Harden will instantly make both Evan Mobley and Jared Allen significantly better. Because James Harden is one of the best lob passers in the NBA.
I can get on board with that.
And Harden, I mean, he had Zubac, but Zubac is not the quickest center in the league. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley run the court. Like, they're not like the strongest guys, but they will go up and down the court and catch lobs. So, and it at least makes the Cavs interesting in that manner. So I'm excited to look forward to it.
Yeah. I think these trades, like, really show the evidence that like the NBA is moving faster than ever before, and not like necessarily on the court. That's true too, but even just like with how teams are, because it was just a year ago, Cleveland Cavaliers were just running things. It felt like in the East, and that's gone. Like they're going to make the playoffs. They're pretty. I feel pretty handedly at this point, especially with this trade. I think James Harden. It's the upgrade, like I said. Hit the upgrade button this year. I still don't think they won the trade just because it's James Harden of all people. In fact, I think the biggest winner of this trade is Brian Damaris or whoever the Mavs commentator is the biggest winner of this trade.
Are you talking about the
100% right about everything he said.
The funniest winner is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have control of the Clippers draft pick this year.
No, we're not thinking about that right now.
No, that's the funniest part.
Stop.
We're not gonna do that. But yeah, so I think like things are just moving very quickly. The Lonzo Ball trade just felt very obvious, and just kind of shows like something's not right, and the Cavs front office wants to do something to show that they know something's not right, and that something needs to happen. And so this also happening is like, oh, okay, this will do something. I think, like Dawson said, like it's gonna help, like especially with those big guys down low, being able to get them their easy buckets now. Not that Donovan Mitchell obviously did his thing even with Rudy Gobert, but he just feels so relied upon in general. So even hopefully having Harden in that aspect will help a little bit, if he's able to turn back the clock every once in a while. For the Clippers, since we didn't talk too much about them. Like death taxes and Hunter liking what the Clippers do and then immediately regretting his choice words. We're back. All right. I'm not a hater of what the Clippers are doing. Like at this deadline, I'm not going to say they fully salvaged everything by any means. And trading Chris Paul was also like kind of weird, but like made sense obviously because he just wasn't. You could have convinced anybody he just wasn't on the team in general anymore, and then they traded him. And so. That was I think it's very interesting what they've done.
They didn't want to be the team to pay him out, honestly, because it sounds like he's going to get bought out here.
Mm-hmm. And so I am interested to see what they do moving forward, and it honestly makes me wonder, like, what is going to happen with Kawhi Leonard then? Because they got a lot younger, their timetable changed, they have more picks, and now they just have this aging dude on their roster that has just always had question marks on like what's next. It's felt like in his time there, at least for the past few years.
I think over the last couple of years, the Clippers have been making these moves and being like, why hasn't this moved the needle? Why aren't we taking that next step? Part of me is starting to wonder if they have finally realized what the common denominator in all of these moves are, and it is we are
Nicholas
still.
Batum. Oh,
yeah.
Don't be hating on my boy, Nicholas Batum. Sorry. Nicholas Batum. But Kawhi Leonard, all of these moves and their opinions were in hopes that Kawhi Leonard will be able to lead a team to a championship. And time after time, that has disappointed them. I feel like this move right here is the sign that things are about to change in LA. It is going to get rough for Clippers fans. This offseason may be one of the worst off seasons for them in recent memory, just because, I mean, heck, when they kind of blew up Lob City, I don't think they were like terrible the first year or two without them, because then they end up getting Kawhi like a year or two later.
They were like surprisingly doing better when like Tobias Harris was the guy.
Yeah.
Like it was weird.
So like they have not done which is funny, a full-on Clippers rebuild since Blake Griffin has been drafted there. It's going to happen. The button is going to get pushed. I think Kawhi Leonard might get moved this offseason.
So the interesting part about the Clippers side of this, so obviously they get significantly younger with adding Garland instead of Harden. And I keep seeing stuff out there that the Clippers are just kind of move on from everything because they're gearing up for the 2027 offseason. Because apparently that's when literally everyone and their mother is a free agent. It's just all worked up where this is when everyone's contract expires.
Damn, my mom's a free agent that year. I need to figure out if I need to like re-sign her or sign her a no trade clause or something.
Yeah. So on the books for next year, so they have Kawhi's contract at $50 million. They have Garland at $42 million. But then it's like Derek Jones Jr. at $10 million. They have Isaiah Jackson at $7 million. Like this team has like money that they could spend for next season. And that's assuming they don't move off Kawhi Leonard, which I think they will at this point. I think they're just kind of, like you said,
it's not this year, it's next year.
They're just kind of done with this era. Like, especially with, we haven't even talked about this in months, the whole scandal with Steve Ballmer allegedly paying Kawhi Leonard under the table. Like, that eventually will come to fruition for the Clippers, and there will be a punishment for that.
There are some dark days in Clipper land that's coming, both on and off the court. It sounds like this is all, again, we don't know the whole results of everything with the investigation or anything yet, but like there potentially could be some, dare I say, putting grocery bags on top of your head going to games type fans in the next couple of years. And don't even get me started. I don't know if you guys saw with the whole the Lakers fan or some fan that sat on the wall section and they gave him a card saying that he is not allowed to show up again in opponent's gear or he will be like removed. I don't basically blackballed from ever entering the arena ever again. That is like I think the Clippers might honestly be my least favorite franchise in how they are being ran and how they are trying to promote their product to the world, because they are trying to make their thing so like inclusive to Clippers fans only. And I hate to break it to you, Clippers, but there are Clippers fans. There are not many of them. And there's a big reason why. And it's for the team that you left to go build a different arena for or by yourself for, because you didn't want to share an arena with the team that has 17 banners. So you had to put up selfies to block them out while you played basketball. Great move for them to get Darius Garland. Again, I do think like this could be a move in the long run that really benefits the Clippers when you look back on it. It all depends on what they end up doing outside of these moves that they made in the trade deadline, which we can talk about. They moved Zubac over to Indiana, which is a move that I don't think many people are going to talk about until next year when Tyrese Halliburton is back for the Pacers, because I do think this is a good move for the Pacers. And it's another move indicating that the Clippers are going to be kind of moving on from this current era of Clipper basketball. I don't know if you guys want to give your quick 2 cents on the move of Zubac going to Indiana.
Yeah, it makes sense for the Pacers, but man, you're taking a big gamble that draft pick doesn't end up between number 5 and number 9. Like this could, if that draft pick does not go to the Clippers this year, or if it's like super late in the draft, we're not gonna have to worry about it. Fine. But giving up control of your first round pick this year, where you either have to be one of the worst 4 teams in the league, which, let me pull up the standings. They are the worst in the Eastern Conference. They're in that top 4 group right now.
Yep.
But, man, I don't know. You can get very easily screwed by the lottery and get the 5th pick in the draft.
The Clippers pull Oklahoma City and all of a sudden they just like scammed a team off of this small little trade.
For the Pacers, other than that draft pick, they didn't really give up too much. I mean, Benedict Mathurin he's been in the rotation, out of the rotation, in the rotation, out of the rotation.
He's been disappointing. I can't believe I gave him 6th man of the year pick heading into the season.
Yeah. And then they give up Isaiah Jackson, who, again, just kind of in between the rotation kind of guy. And then a 2029 first round pick, which will have to be a couple years down the road before we can gauge the value of that. But, again, if that draft pick is number 5 in this loaded of a draft class, oh, man.
It's top 4 protected? Sorry.
It's weird. It's top 4 protected, and it's 10 through 30 protected. Spoiler, it's not going to be pick 10 or 30 because, again, the Pacers, I think, the second worst record in the NBA right now.
Dang.
But if you have the worst record in the NBA, the best odds for what pick you'll get is pick 5. Like, that is your highest draft odds. Like, that's the lowest you can get, but that's also the highest, like, a quarter of your odds are going to the 5th pick, if that makes sense. I know I phrased that weird, but you're not guaranteed to get a top 4 pick, even if you finished in the bottom 4.
And with this draft class that people are talking about being one of the best in recent memory, it could be really key for the Clippers to maybe have a quick rebuild. I think they're going to have some bad seasons upcoming here, personally. But if they could, if somehow like some magical thing happens where they could end up with AJ DeBonce, how do you pronounce his last name?
I think that's right.
Okay, so if you could end up with him, I'm calling everybody about getting rid of Kawhi the next day. Like you're going all in on the young rebuild, because let's be honest. Honestly, if you look at these teams that are winning and competing for NBA championships right now, how many of them are being led by a like an old veteran like Kawhi Leonard anymore? You look at the last couple NBA championships, all these teams are really young. They're led by young stars. And so I feel like that's what the Clippers are realizing. So again, I also think they're just wanting to end the current era that they're in. But like going young is never a bad option in terms of rebuilds, because if it turns out and you build a team, it's been proven that you can easily compete for an NBA championship.
This feels like this might be a crazy poll, but back in 2011, when the Clippers traded Baron Davis, or the Cavs traded Baron Davis to the Clippers, and the Clippers gave up an unprotected pick, and that pick became Kyrie Irving. Granted, this pick will not become the first overall pick because it'll go straight back to the Pacers, but this is like shades of that trade. Like if the Clippers get the 5th pick in the draft, and they can get potentially one of those top 4 guys that they trade up, man, the Pacers are going to be really upset with themselves, despite how good of a player Zubac is.
Shout out Baron Davis, man. Hunter, any final thoughts on the Clippers or the Cavs or the Pacers, I guess, as we're talking about those 2 trades involving those 3 teams?
Yeah, I think at least on the Pacers side, I think it's an interesting one. Kind of like you said, just being like a gamble, but even like when the Pacers are the Pacers again, hopefully they aren't. I'll start off with that. Hopefully they're never the Pacers again. But it's not that Zubac can't play in transition, but I am very confused on like how does he fit? Like he'll get on them, those offensive rebounds that they just annihilated teams with in the playoffs. He'll do that. He'll do that. Don't you worry. But like he's not. No, he's not going block to block as the fastest. I mean, most centers aren't going to be the fastest guy. The fastest 7-foot man in the league is literally called the Greek Freak. But like, I am a little confused on their full court offense, how this helps them. And that is like their biggest strength, I would argue. Just being able to move the ball like crazy and get up and down. And again, it's not that he can't do it. I believe a year ago, like the amount of transition plays that happened with him on the court, because the Clippers were doing some wild things a year ago. Like that, he was on the floor when those things happened. But especially this year, and really mostly every other year he's been around, like has just not been the case, especially with this new Zubac we're seeing, as this big post guy, able to get those like buckets down low on the block, easily enough. It'll be interesting to see what their offense, like how he fits exactly.
Yeah, we'll see what the future brings for both, or I guess all 3 of these teams. Again, just moves that I feel like for some are for the short term, current day, and some of them maybe benefits them in the long run. Okay. We're at 50 minutes here on this current recording. I think we'll hit on a couple things. Do we really need to touch on the Bulls' no center strategy? I feel like the Bulls are just kind of bleh. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
fall. They're gonna drop. I think big time in the rankings right here. I think they're full on tank mode.
That's what it would appear to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we covered the first. The Giannis, Cavs, and Clippers thing. Do we want to hit on before we hit the final two on our main ones? Do we want to talk about the other, I guess, kind of big trade in the NBA that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about? Jaren Jackson getting traded to Utah, pretty much ending the current state of the Memphis Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson averaging 19 points, almost 2 blocks a game, is headed to Utah with some teammates of his for a lot of nothing in terms of players, except for George Niang, and then 3 future first-round picks, which that's the thing that gets me personally with this trade is why the Jazz, out of all teams, would give up 3 future first-round picks. I can't remember because I don't think all of them are Utah's picks. So I would need you guys to clarify on which ones they gave up. But either way, I think this is a great move for the Grizzlies first because they're going to get these picks as well as I think maybe they can use some of these the younger Walter Clayton Jr. as a guy to see maybe he can find a way to develop to be the backup for Ja. Who knows? Maybe this is a move to eventually get rid of Ja at some point. But the Jazz, I'm not sure what they were wanting to do with this move. I don't really even know what the Jazz are doing as an organization. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on this? I think Dawson, did you pull up the who owns each pick? So let's start with you.
Yeah, I hate how many times you can trade swapped picks because this just makes it super confusing to relay. The picks that Utah sent to Memphis include a 2027 Los Angeles Lakers pick, and then the most favorable of the other. This is a group of 4 teams. The most favorable of either the Jazz, the Cavs, the Timberwolves, and then it's 3 teams, and then a 2031 Phoenix first round pick.
Okay. So they will get the Jazz pick.
I think I got that right.
So they will get the Jazz pick out of that group of 3, but it's not bad like draft picks really, but it ends a era in Memphis. Like out of all the players on their roster, Jaren Jackson Jr. is the only one that I felt like they should be keeping, maybe build around, like, or not necessarily build around, make him the star player, but like I feel like he could have been a key contributor to a team that could maybe contend, but maybe they had to pull the Band-Aid off and like completely restart because they're kind of stuck as long as they have Ja Morant.
Sorry, I had to make sure I was counting this right. Yeah, Ja Morant being the last man standing in Memphis is certainly something. And again, just to allude back to my previous rant, we literally had a report about how he was going to be gone, about how the Memphis Grizzlies were going to continue to build around Jaren Jackson Jr. And quite literally, I mean, not the inverse has happened because I would be appalled at this point if Ja Morant lasts much longer in Memphis. But
agreed.
That's the case. Anyway, if I counted this correctly, over the next, I believe it's 6 years, from 2026 to 2032, the Memphis Grizzlies own 11 first-round picks, which is wild. That's between because we had the whole Desmond Bane thing when he got shipped off to Orlando. They got some picks then, and then obviously now those first-round picks from JJJ. This is weird. Because that does not, to me, that does not scream, keeping Ja Morant. So I'm interested to see what they'll do moving forward, and if they use any, maybe they will keep Ja, and they'll use all those first round picks to trade for who knows who. Maybe they'll get Kawhi Leonard. That won't happen. But it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. And yeah, the Jazz, I I refuse to talk about them. I don't know. They're like they're not as bad as the Kings by any means, but they're getting there. It's like, what are you like? What's the goal here? Like, what are we working towards? I'm a little lost because I thought Laurie was supposed to be gone. And obviously, he has a gajillion dollars, so he's not going to get moved. Now they have Jaren Jackson Jr. Keontae George is all of a sudden just like insanely good at basketball, but they still are not that good. So I'm a little concerned.
It's crazy because we'll talk about the second trade after this one. It's crazy the Jazz had to give up more for Jaren Jackson Jr. than what the Wizards had to do to get Anthony Davis. Like, we'll talk about the Davis trade in a second, but I need to throw that out there. Most of the players in this deal are just kind of like, eh. Like, Walter Clayton Jr. played good last year at Florida, but he's not really a contributor for the Jazz this year. Taylor Hendricks is the interesting one, former lottery pick. So we'll see what he ends up being with the Grizzlies. I do think it's funny Kyle Anderson's going back to Memphis. I do like that. That's from the Grizzlies' perspective, and the draft picks are nice. Like you said, what they have 11 in the next 6 years. Like they can build something. From the Jazz, it just why? Or I'm sorry, from the Jazz, why? Like you're sitting at. Let me pull up my standings. You're sitting at 13th in the West right now. You're not like you're 7 games out of just the 10 seed, so you're not really trying to win this year. But then you throw in like. It's not your pick this year, but next year you're kind of giving up the rights to your pick, if that makes sense. Because you give Memphis the favorable swap of any of those three. And at this point in time, unless the Cavs just self-implode and same with the Timberwolves, I would expect the Jazz to be the worst team out of those three. So
Safe
Memphis
bet.
would get what?
Safe
that. But it's truly head scratching that it took this much for Jaren. I mean, it's not even like the players the Jazz also got are like great players. Like Jock Landale, I think he either got traded again or is getting bought out. And then Vince Williams played good. Was it last year or 2 years ago when he was a rookie? But hasn't really been much of a contributor since. But for the Jazz, you got all these picks. Why not try to? You can't really attract free agents. I mean, Utah's kind of a hard place to sell someone to. But I don't hate the trade for the Jazz, but I really like what Memphis is doing, just stockpiling draft picks and really gearing towards the future. So,
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever see James Harden ever consider signing with Utah. I don't think there's much to do out there for him, but we'll see what each team does. It's so I had to take a headshot photo from George Niang to be able to put him on this graphic because he hasn't played this year because he's been hurt all season. So we'll see. I sent a text to you guys. George Niang is slowly becoming the Ish Smith of this era, where he's just kind of taking stops wherever. But hey, if that means he's going to end up with an NBA championship at some point, sign me up. Because, Ish Smith finally got his a couple years ago.
Dennis Schroeder's catching up to him. I think Dennis Schroeder's, with him joining the Cavs, I think he's on team number 10 or team number 11.
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder is the guy that always gets traded and you're like, or gets signed somewhere and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot he's still playing basketball.
Yeah.
Which is literally what Ish Smith was. So that's a very good point there from you, Dawson. Final thing before we get to the trade that is, I don't know, confusing. Probably the biggest trade of the deadline. I don't know. Miami, Houston, and San Antonio were quiet during the deadline. Didn't make any moves. Were in a bunch of rumors for players that weren't actually on the block. San Antonio and Houston, I can kind of get. Where's? Whoa!
Sorry, I was just trying to put it back so we're all.
Oh yeah, I was like,
I love the zoom in though for Brock.
Yeah, how about we do?
There we go. Hey, there we go.
But as I was saying, for Miami's case, and if you guys have opinions on Houston and San Antonio not making any moves, feel free to add those here. But both of them are in the top half of the Western Conference, while Miami is currently sitting at the 8th seed, would be in a play-in game if the playoffs started today in the very competitive Eastern Conference. But if you're Miami, what are you doing? Because it's also you also have the situation now where you are back paying Terry Rozier. It sounds like for that contract that you weren't paying him during the investigation of his gambling situation. Where are you guys at with Miami? Like, is there any hope for this franchise?
I want to say no, but I just feel some tomfoolery is going to happen in the offseason where they're going to get a player and it's like, dude, why were they allowed to get this player? The reported offer they declined for Ja was like actually laughable. They only would have had to given up like Kalea Ware. Oh man, I'm blanking on the other guy's name, and then like a draft pick. Maybe it was Terry Rozier. And then one more young guy in a draft
I feel like
pick
that should
for
be a bigger sign about how bad Ja's stock is currently.
But if you're Miami, I mean, why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, no one's talking about the Miami Heat. They're going to be the 8th seed in the playoffs, get annihilated by the Pistons and the Knicks, and we're just not going to talk about them. Why wouldn't you want to be at least like somewhat interesting? But they're just like totally content. Like, yeah, hey man, Heat culture. Heat culture. We're gonna get Giannis in like 8 years when Giannis is 40 years old. We're gonna get Giannis.
They're like Jaylen Brown saying that he's gonna have how many championships by the time he turns 27, or whatever it was in that one interview. It's like you better get to work because it's time's ticking.
They're just. I think this team is just always gonna have Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. Like that's just if they haven't traded him by now, they never will. If that makes sense. Like, they are just those two. And Norm Powell played good. I think he's an all-star for the first time this year. So that's shout out to Norm Powell for that, making Heat someone interesting. But, like they're just not fun to talk about. I feel like that trade would at least spiced it up. But, nah, man, Heat culture.
Not the same talent-wise, but in terms of, like, entertainment-wise or, like, threat-wise, Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero are, like, what the Raptors were with Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, where it's like they're there, they might do something every once in a while, but like no one's like, oh no, we're playing Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan in the playoffs. Yes, they made some runs, but they weren't ever like threats to win the NBA championship, really. Until DeMar DeRozan got sacrificed, basically. So I don't know, Hunter. What are your thoughts? I know you love seeing Miami Heat basketball.
Yeah, man, they're kind of like so it's really weird because after the Luka trade, like you couldn't really poke any fun at like Laker fans being like, we're gonna trade for this guy, but like Miami has been
They're
doing
still
this
getting
for
Kevin
7
Durant,
years.
I promise you.
They've been doing it for a long time where it's like, we're going to get this guy and we're going to – I have a screenshot of a text message from a Miami Heat fan from 6 years ago about how they were going to do X, Y, Z, get Giannis. It still has not happened.
Not enough time has passed. Not enough time.
Not enough time, yeah. I mean, that text included Danilo Gallinari, but not enough time.
Shout out Danilo Gallinari.
Oh, yeah.
That
a little bit.
He ended up on the Celtics before Giannis could end up in
He ended up on
Miami.
the Bucks again.
Oh, that's right. Ew.
Did he tear his ACL?
Yeah, he did.
Tore his ACL in Boston.
I
think he did. Buddy went through an ACL surgery before Giannis could even get to Miami.
We got to fact check this.
But the Heat just, it's so weird because it seems like the new Heat culture is just being okay with being okay. And that's the new mantra. It's no longer being this rough, tough team that's going to claw their way into the NBA Finals as an 8 seed. And by golly, we're going to rely on one man who plays hard-nosed basketball 40 minutes a night to get to the NBA Finals. Instead, the new mantra is, well, like Dawson said, let's give a couple extensions. Let's sign a veteran player when we don't get the big splash at the trade deadline or in the offseason. And by golly, we'll go win that play-in tournament again. Like, congrats, dude. That's real impressive. Out here before chasing championships when you had the big three, and now you're chasing the play-in. Like, that's something to applaud. That's pretty good.
You're gonna love this. I just used AI.
Oh boy. Okay at being okay. Come on, let's go. I love a little
now available
too.
at shop.515podcastnetwork.com.
No, this is something. This is like Fanatics type quality right here.
That's awesome. But yeah, like I'll pull a Kendrick Perkins. I'm tired of talking about the Miami Heat. I'm tired of this. We should stop it. But yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird. Like, they're so good at these what ifs, and then the what ifs are a what not. They don't happen. And instead, we'll sit around a fire and talk about what the Miami Heat could do but won't do. So yeah, like Dawson said, they'll probably they'll extend Tyler Hero. I don't know if they'll extend Norman Powell at this point. He might be a little too expensive for Pat Riley over there. But it'll be interesting to see what they do to fight for the 8 seed again. So,
and if you're a fan of the Miami Vice,
there we go.
Sure. Oh, see now.
There we go.
I love that it actually uses the Miami Heat logo too. The brand like off the T flame thing or whatever.
Yeah,
it's terrible, but
I love the little M Iami.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fire.
That's great. Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do. Any thoughts, I guess, on Houston or San Antonio? I know we got to wrap up here shortly, but
it honestly makes perfect sense to me that they did nothing. Especially the Spurs. I feel like if they would have done something that I think the only possible thing I could think of that they could have maybe done, I don't even know what his value would be, but it would be move on from Sohan. That's it. And that's honestly mostly because I just don't like him. I don't know if all the Spurs fans out there feel about him. I don't like him. But makes perfect sense that they did nothing. Houston just feels so locked in on what they're doing with I don't know their whole cap situation off the top of my head, but I feel like they are pretty much set on this is kind of what we have to do moving forward.
I don't know how it works financially, so maybe they cannot do this.
My guess would be some 1-for-1s, but why would you shake things up that crazily?
Is there a world if one of the teams that we were talking about earlier is fully committed on getting young and starting a rebuild, is there a world where Kawhi Leonard ends up back in San Antonio next year?
Ew.
That'd be wild.
Ew.
That would be something.
Gross.
Potential starting lineup of De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, Kawhi Leonard, insert anyone at the 4, and then Wemby. And then the Spurs just completely unravel their bench in terms of youth as well as Harrison Barnes, because I feel like in a trade like that, somehow Harrison Barnes gets involved, and then a bunch of first-round picks. Truthfully, is there a world where that could be a thing? I don't know what the cap situation is, but
I would be shocked.
That it's icky. That's the best way I can put it. It's icky.
I think Kelly Olynyk would be a good value for the Clippers in that trade. Bismack Biyombo.
Shout out Bismack.
Was he in LA not too long ago?
Maybe.
God. But who knows? I didn't see Houston or San Antonio really making a move unless the rumors of Giannis getting traded was true, which they weren't, so it doesn't matter. Final trade that we're going to talk about tonight, unless you guys have another one that you guys want to hit on, is this interesting turn of events that have occurred over the last month or so. We are sitting here again, 2 episodes in a row talking about the Wizards making a move that potentially gives them a little bit of hope of a future. I'm not really sure on how to word it. But if you haven't seen, Anthony Davis is on his way to Washington a year pretty much this week after getting traded from LA to Dallas for Luka, which, God, that is so funny thinking about how Dallas went from Luka to Anthony Davis to
Chris
whatever
Middleton.
this is, Chris Middleton.
NBA champion Chris Middleton, Brock.
True.
All right, let's get it right.
And former second overall pick Marvin Bagley.
Come on, they traded up. That's
Max
a
Christie,
big move. That's a big.
I
move.
would say the Lakers got fleeced, honestly. Hindsight 2020.
But Anthony Davis and company, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum are on their way to Washington. And the Mavericks are getting Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi, is it Branham? Is that how you pronounce his last name? And Marvin Bagley Jr. And then, of course, there's no way that this would have even made sense if they didn't give up a first-round pick or two, and they gave up 2 first-round picks, one of them being from Oklahoma City, which is great. You're definitely going to get good value in that. And then the 2030 Wizards, which in the long run could be a good pick because really their core, the Wizards core, is not necessarily young. What were your guys' thoughts when this all went down? Because this kind of went quickly because it was like, oh, because the last month or so it was Anthony Davis was going to end up in Atlanta, which is funny when you think about where Anthony Davis is now going. And that is the Washington Wizards, who just traded for Trae Young not too long ago from Atlanta. Does this change your guys' outlook for, 1, the Wizards, and then 2, what the heck is Dallas doing?
I think we need to talk about the Dallas point of view before we compliment the Wizards. It's been 370 days since the monstrosity of that trade between Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison went down. And now the Mavs sit with no Nico Harrison, no Luka Doncic, but Chris Middleton, who's going to get bought out, AJ Johnson, Malachi Brandon, Marvin Bagley, 2 picks, Max Christie, and
Cooper.
What?
Cooper.
Okay.
Cooper is a separate entity from everything that happened. He is not related to Luka whatsoever. We are not giving Nico credit for that.
No. The fact that the Dallas got Cooper Flag will kind of put the flex tape over the hole of hey, we're gonna be screwed the next 5 years. Because Cooper Flag looks awesome. I think we all agree with that. You just said 49 points a week ago. Dude can ball out. To go from, hey, we didn't want Luka, we're going to build our defense up. Hey, Luka's not a defender. Defense doesn't win. You can't be heliocentric with the ball 40% of the time and win the title. We're going to trust Kyrie. We're going to trust AD because both those guys are real healthy, right? And we're going to win a title. And now we sit here on February 5th, 2026, and the Mavs have just self-imploded. And I guess, I mean, are any of the players they got in return going to actually do something for him? Probably not. Again, it sounds like Middleton's going to probably get bought out. AJ Johnson, Hunter, he's a former Buck. You probably know more about AJ Johnson than I do. Is he going to be an actual rotation guy? Malachi Brandon, I think, is on his 3rd team since entering the league. And then Marvin Bagley has just, I think he's on probably his 8th team since he entered the league. It's really just those picks, and the 2026 Oklahoma City pick, spoiler alert, is going to be between pick 28 and 30. And then that Wizards pick, we'll see. We'll see how this iteration of the Wizards can go. But what a fall from grace the Mavericks went in the last year and a half, where they went from runnering up in the finals to hey, we can win the title with this team, to self-imploding, and now they're basically in full rebuild mode at this point. So
I think the biggest thing I see from this is if you take away 5 of the players listed here. The Bucks could have traded Chris Middleton and AJ Johnson for Luka Doncic, and instead they got Kyle Kuzma. So that's devastating. Second off, yeah, hey man, Washington, this is crazy. This is wild. I'm slightly concerned. There's a fun number out there, and 29 represents the number of games, or actually I think technically it's 30. I think it's technically 31 because of the play-in games. But Anthony Davis played 31 total games for the Mavericks franchise in his very long tenure there. And so while the idea of Trae Young and Anthony Davis alongside, Alex Sarr, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, like as exciting as that is, will it ever actually happen? We will see, because we won't see this year probably, which is the funniest part of this whole thing. But it is expected that Anthony Davis and Trae Young will probably get long-term deals for the Wizards, and so it's an interesting time over in the DMV. This time next year, we could be talking about the top 6 seed Washington Wizards if everything goes right. We'll see. We'll get there when we get there. But I do like this overall for the Wizards. Like everybody, Chris Middleton knew before he got traded. It was basically like, yeah, he's not gonna be on really any team for much longer. Probably he'll get bought out and hopefully end up in a Bucks uniform. Who knows? I love the idea of AJ Johnson working with Kyrie Irving, because they are like, that was the one thing that was like the high upside for AJ. He's a very, very shifty guard. He's a little bit taller than you would expect. But he is a twig. Like he's a pretty skinny dude. But his ball handling, his ability to create space and get by guys, his finishing ability was kind of iffy when he was with the Bucks, but overall was really exciting. And so I'm interested to see if him being with Kyrie does absolutely anything. But like Dawson said, it could even just be nothing. And so overall, yeah, Mavericks, rough time. But at least you can say bye to AD. That's the fun thing about this whole thing. Biggest loser is Klay Thompson, because he has nothing left in Dallas anymore that he showed up with, or anything that there was like, hey, we're going to trade this one guy, but now you're going to play with AD, and now, oh, well, bye. Like, and that's it. That's all she wrote. So yeah, overall, love it for the Wizards. Mavericks, I guess I like it, but probably not for any reasons that lead to success. So it's more, yeah, like you guys said, just kind of ripping the Band-Aid off a little bit here. So that's at least nice.
If you were a fan of the Between the Hashes show, you know that how do I want to phrase this? My obsession with the Panthers and them being frisky, that was the whole running joke the entire season. You best believe next year the Wizards are this year's Panthers. They just are. And East is absolute crap next year. Like, it always will be crap until something drastic changes. I applaud the Wizards for trying. You know what? The East is so bad, maybe we can make a top 4 seed. So.
I don't know if you'll ever be one of Hunter and myself's friends who actually went out of his way and purchased a Russell Westbrook Washington Wizards jersey.
Amen.
Shout out, dude.
We do know that person.
Amen.
Before we go, and I know, Dawson, I think you wanted to talk about who is going to come out, who we think might come out of the East or whatever, but we can hit that on the next episode. We're almost at an hour and 30 on this recording. Before we go, I do got a question for you guys, and I guarantee you at least one of you know this. How many players from the 2018 draft class are still on their original team? And do you know who that is? How many are still on their original team, and can you name any of them? This is the
Wow.
Luka draft.
Yeah. I almost said Mo Bamba, but that's not even
No.
remotely
No,
right.
Mo Bamba has made his rounds.
Hunter, do you know?
I'm running through teams.
Oh,
I am
I know.
lost.
How many?
It's one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Which conference?
He's in the East.
Okay. Which team?
He plays for the New York Knicks. Mitch Rob.
Wow.
Mitchell Robinson is
That's
the
crazy.
last man standing from that 2018 class to be
Dude,
drafted and not traded at any point.
This draft class is hindsight 2020. This is an unreal draft class. Even this like second round of this draft class has like Jared Vanderbilt, Bruce Brown, Gary Trent Jr., Mitchell Robinson, Jalen Brunson, obviously. Like this,
But only one of them is still on the same team.
That's crazy.
That is wild.
It blew my mind when I saw that stat. I was like, I gotta mention this during the pod. It's just unbelievable.
Oh, you're telling me it wasn't Kevin Knox, dude?
Oh my gosh. You guys remember the Fortnite suit?
Did
he have like the Fortnite inside in the suit jacket? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts before we sign off here? All right. Well then, for Hunter Rose and Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman. Make sure to subscribe, like. Dawson's putting out some short clips on our YouTube page. And then Hunter is going to be doing some just more reaction and in-depth analysis on the biggest trades from the trade deadline on our TikTok and Instagram. So at 515 Podcasts on pretty much any social media platform. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, whatever you can do to help support us. We appreciate it. And again, for Hunter Rose, Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Bierman, and we will see you next week.